I'm Robin. I'm the founder and developer behind Vizicities, and Vizicities is a 3D city visualization platform. I'll show you a little bit more about it because it's easier to explain it in images than it is to explain it. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview and introduce you to some of the concepts that you might be able to use tomorrow. So Vizicities, like I said, it's a 3D city visualization platform. It runs in the browser, so you don't need to install anything to use it. You just need a modern, vaguely modern computer with a vaguely modern browser to be able to use this kind of visualization. And it turns existing data into 3D, and I'll again touch on that in a minute. But it allows you to do some really interesting things with the data. That's interesting. Yeah. So first time I've used this new keynote. Anyway, I'll skip through that way. So if you want to grab me or ask anything about the project either tonight, tomorrow, or whenever you want, you can either grab me in person or you can talk to me and get my contact details, or just tweet at Vizicities and I'll reply pretty quickly.
Is there a Wi-Fi code?
For here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Veronica can give you that in a minute.
Yeah, okay.
So just to sort of step back a moment, one of the reasons why this exists and one of the reasons why it's quite interesting to see what we can do tomorrow is to look at cities sort of from far away. So cities require things on a vast scale, it's pretty obvious. Huge amounts of food distribution. They need reliable energy across the entire city, reliable transport systems. You've got crime prevention, all that kind of stuff. And all of these parts can work independently of each other, but if one of them failed, the whole system could kind of fall apart, and that does sometimes happen when, for example, there's problems with the transport network. Other aspects of the city fall apart. So let's take London as an example. The city's current population, over 8 million, which isn't even that big actually for a worldwide city. And all of those people actually live in 3.2 million private households, so we're kind of all crammed in. And the 33 London councils spend just over £15 billion pounds a year on running their areas. That's crime, that's education, public health. And actually less than a fifth of that comes from the council tax. The rest of it comes from government grants and all sorts of other things. That was quite interesting from my perspective. And in 1 year, more than 2 billion people travel on the London bus network. In 8,500 buses that they have. And those buses combined travel nearly 500 million kilometres around London, which is quite a lot of travel. And London has the largest emergency ambulance service in the world. So it's got 5,000 staff across 70 stations that respond to just under 3,000 incidents each day. But it's the only major city in the entire world that has a single air ambulance. It's quite incredible because if that goes down, which sometimes it does for maintenance and stuff, we have no air coverage for ambulance. It's quite an interesting statistic. And London actually has 7 power stations, I didn't know this, including this miserable looking thing in Greenwich, which is actually a backup station for TfL. So if the London Underground does, for example, run out of power, then this thing kicks in and does something. Doesn't look like it would do much, but we'll see. But what I'm getting at is cities are chaotic. They're complex and they're awe-inspiring. They shouldn't work, but they kind of do. And they're hard to control because they're kind of growing constantly, they're evolving. There's all this data that's surrounding them that kind of helps this process happen. So this data is kind of tucked in places like data.gov.uk. The London Data Store was something that was kind of relaunched last week, so that's something useful to dig into to get some of this data like crime information, education information that you can tie in tomorrow. But what if you could give people a way to kind of unlock this data and combine it and visualize it in a really interesting way, like a tool that allows people to make better decisions, that allows people to combine this data to learn something that they didn't know before. So it turned out this existed. If anyone's heard of the game SimCity, that's pretty much what that game does. The unfortunate thing is that it's for fictional cities. So what it allows you to do is kind of build the city up and pull the data, pull the city apart and look at the data that helps it run. So how is the crime working? Where is the crime? How is the traffic flow? Is the traffic flow preventing police cars from getting to those crime hotspots? So Vizicities kind of aims to do that for real world cities. So overlaying all sorts of different pieces of data that you want to look at and visualizing it in a way that's kind of intuitive and gives you a new perspective on what you're looking at. So you can take things like this, sort of pretty complex geographic data, so it's just lines of everywhere in London, all the roads and stuff like that. You can turn it into something like this. So you can actually see 3D buildings, you can have 2D base maps, and I'll touch on a couple other things in a second. So you wanted to cover and allow people to build things in new and interesting ways. So one example of that is using 3D not as a gimmick, but actually as a way of seeing something in a new way. So this is the London Underground network in 3D. The trains that you can see here are actually, or were when the video was recorded, moving in real time. So they're actually using TfL APIs, freedom of information requests to get the data of the station depths and stuff like that, and then combining that all together to see something that you didn't know or didn't see before. We did the same thing for buses, for example. We're actually the first people to do this with the bus network. So just taking data from various places and turning it into something else. And doing the same with things like 3D air traffic, for example. So we also did things, you can do things in Vizicities with like terrain. So this is why it's interesting with the watches. You can do height information and then plot things like, for example, here you have a tool to do flood level analysis. So if you're buying a house, you can know that if the levels are going to flood and it's going to go up 30 centimetres, then you're probably not going to want to move in there. But also looking at more traditional data visualization techniques like heat maps or chloroplaths in this case, to allow me to see things like statistics over an areas like crime, for example, education, population density, which is what you're seeing here in Tower Hamlets, anything you want really, and then combining that with other visualizations to start learning something new or start communicating a story about a particular area. So more recently, we've added the ability to overlay GPS traces. So this is actually from one of the watches. This is a GPX trace. I cheated a little bit. I used my car in this one, so I was going a little bit too fast. But it still is an interesting visualization technique. And this is taking random pieces of data. So we've got the map tiles underneath, and we're just overlaying the GPS traces on top of that. But you can actually do some quite interesting things. So for example, you could use the heart rate to change the height of the path, or the width of the path. You can use other pieces of information to manipulate that path as well. So it's really up to you how you visualize that data. The important thing is that you can actually get it in, and then it's up to you what output you want to communicate with that. So you could combine this with crime statistics, or anything else that you want to visualize. This is just an interesting use case that we had, people using Vizicities within data journalism. So there's a whole bunch of people actually using this right now. It's not just a hacky experiment, it's actually something that we're putting a lot of time into and people are actually relying on to communicate these stories with data today. So like I said, Vizicities is browser-based, so you can use it very quickly if you know anything about JavaScript and if you're developing. The API to use this is very simple. We've got documentation ready for you. It's open source, open license, so you can do what you want with it. It's just been updated to a new version, which has had significant changes since what existed last year. So there's a huge number of improvements that you can find on here. On the GitHub page, I mean, you can just Google Vizicities or go to the website, which I'll tell you at the end. And it's also got a whole bunch of documentation now that'll help you get started, which you didn't have just a week ago. So I've been preparing that this week in the evenings, getting that all ready. So it's not quite finished, but I'll be here anyway if you need any help. So I do hope you decide to use Vizicities as a tool, or maybe just a potential option for one of the visualization techniques you use. If you do, like I said, talk to me. I'll be around. I can help you through some of the ways of using it, or just run through some ideas with you and see what happens. Vizicities.com is where to find everything you need, or like I said, grab me at Vizicities on Twitter. Thank you very much.